Rain arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and then later into western parts of Scotland into the early hours of Monday morning. A little drier further south, but still rather cloudy and quite a mild night and perhaps quite a humid start to Monday for many of us into the start of the new week. A very damp and windy start across parts of Scotland, though. Those winds continue to intensify through the early hours of the morning. Gusts at the coast of 70 miles an hour, 50 to 60 miles an hour on land, and even across western parts of Scotland. At first, we could see those gusts even a little higher, around 80, perhaps even 90 miles an hour. Still windy across the south, but a bit of a brighter start here, and those winds not quite as strong as further north. That band of rain continues to sweep its way south and eastwards as we go through Monday daytime. As I mentioned, it's across the north that we see those winds continue to intensify through Monday afternoon. Western coast of Scotland and then later across the north coast of Aberdeenshire is where we're likely to see the peak of winds, 80 to 85, potentially 90 miles an hour. And with those strong winds, despite temperatures being pretty similar to Sunday, it'll be feeling much cooler and much fresher and probably quite unpleasant further north. Tuesday, those winds are a notch down compared to Monday, but it will still be a breezy start to the day, particularly across the north and the west. Plenty of blustery showers feeding in on that northwesterly wind, but generally staying drier further south with plenty of sunshine. And it looks a little drier for all of us on Wednesday. And then perhaps turning a little bit warmer as we go through the second half of the week.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year. We'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, good evening to you. I'm Ben Leo, and this is Ben Leo Tonight, late edition in the Telegraph tomorrow. There we go, the Tory party at war on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Liz Truss has hit out at Kemi Badenoch, accusing her of not telling the truth about the Conservative Party's record in government. The former PM says the Tories are heading for serious trouble unless they start being honest about their failings, particularly on the economy and human rights. Who are you backing, Truss or Badenoch? Elsewhere in tomorrow's Times, the government has admitted Britain's schools and hospitals are very likely to be hacked by hostile actors, in which could amount to a very dangerous and damaging cyber attack. Elsewhere, breaking tonight, the Home Office is set to give £100 million of extra funding to support the new one-in, one-out scheme of migrants. The cash will also pay for up to 300 more NCA officers and new technology and equipment to step up intelligence gathering on, of course, smashing the gangs. Will this end illegal migration? Elsewhere, more breaking news tonight. The Met Police has hit back at claims it banned protests outside a migrant hotel in London earlier today. The force said actions by certain attendees went well beyond protests and were in actual fact harassment, and they'd used certain powers to order a group to leave and not return for 28 days. They say it applied to that group only. Meanwhile, The Sun reports tomorrow a migrant from a taxpayer-funded asylum hotel has been charged with attempting to kidnap a girl of 10 while she was with her father. A man was remanded in custody to appear at Manchester Crown Court later this month. Also tonight...
I can't! I've got too much to do. Listen, don't mention the war. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it all right.
Do you think trigger warnings are pointless? Because a new study finds trigger warnings may not actually help students. Who'd have thought? I'll be joined by the author of the report. Maybe woke really is over, as President Trump says. And speaking of the US president...
Russia? I think it's disgusting what they're doing. I think it's disgusting.
Tensions between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have hit an all-time low. In fact, I'd argue breaking point. After months of failed diplomacy, Trump has deployed nuclear subs near Russia and accelerated tough new sanctions. Was this the right thing to do? Hello, good evening. All the front pages are in. So many stories to get stuck into with political commentator Chloe Dobbs, the former Labour MP and Minister Bill Rammell, and GB News star and comedian, former headliner. He's here, Paul Cox. But first, let's get your news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good evening to you. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB Newsroom. Thousands of drivers who are mis-sold car finance could receive payouts as part of a £1 billion compensation scheme. The financial regulator will consult on a scheme of redress, which could cost banks between £9 and £18 billion when it begins next year. However, motorists who were mis-sold car finance are being warned they are likely to get less than £950 per claim. Oasis say they're shocked and saddened by the death of a fan during their concert at Wembley Stadium last night. A man in his 40s is believed to have plunged from the upper tier during the gig, dying at the scene. Police are asking for anyone who may have witnessed it or caught it on camera to call 101. The concert was the fourth of 7 taking place in London as part of the Oasis reunion tour. One person's been arrested during a demonstration outside a migrant hotel in London. More than 100 people gathered outside the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf in a so-called pink protest to oppose the use of hotels to house asylum seekers. However, they were quickly joined by a group of masked men who set off smoke bombs and tried to charge the fence surrounding the hotel. One man has been arrested for assault. Separately, 2 more men have been charged in connection with disorder outside a hotel housing asylum seekers in Essex last month. 23-year-old Charlie Land and 21-year-old Luke Fleming will appear at Chelmsford Magistrates Court on Monday. 9 other people have already been charged by the CPS. A man stabbed to death in south-east London has been named as 26-year-old Ayewale Aladejana. Emergency services were called to Monson Road in New Cross yesterday evening after Mr Aladejana was found with stab wounds. He died at the scene. A 23-year-old man and a 23-year-old woman have been arrested on suspicion of murder. They remain in custody. A fifth person's been charged by counter-terrorism police after activists damaged military aircraft at RAF Bryce Norton in June. 22-year-old Mohammed Umar Khalid has been charged with conspiracy to commit criminal damage and to enter a prohibited place. He's been remanded in custody and will appear in court tomorrow. Palestine Action, who've since been prescribed under anti-terror laws, took responsibility for the break-in, which caused an estimated £7 million worth of damage. Finally, high winds could pose a danger to life across parts of the UK on Monday. That's the Met Office warning. They have upgraded their alerts to amber. Storm Florence expected to cause severe travel disruption tomorrow, with National Rail warning of delays and cancellations, with winds of up to 85 miles an hour expected. It covers England, Scotland, North Wales and parts of Northern Ireland. Those are your headlines. Now it's back to Ben.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, welcome along to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. It's 11 p.m, but there's no reason to go to bed just yet because the front pages are in. Let's look at the headlines adorning them. The Eye, charge VAT on private health schemes to fund the NHS. That's according to Neil Kinnock. A tax hike handed to independent schools should be extended. Goodness me. The Sun. Really sad story, actually. The Sun. Oasis fan dies in gig plunge. Oasis told of their shock last night, that's tonight, after a fan plunged to his death at Saturday's reunion gig. The man in his 40s is believed to have been in Wembley Stadium's upper tier at the end of the gig when he fell. Terrible. Can you imagine going to, a great concert like that, the time of your life, and it ends in tragedy? The Telegraph. Palestine Action plot to swamp police. Supporters of the terror group Palestine Action plan protests so big that justice system will be overwhelmed. Wow. Campaigners have hatched a plot for left-wing activists and members of the Muslim community to attend a demonstration on Saturday, that's next week I assume, declaring support for Palestine Action. The Metro. Rat horror for hospital gran. A terrified pensioner who's 82 sleeps with a rat trap under her bed in hospital after rodent droppings found in her drawers. The Express. An extra £100 million will not stop the boats. This is Labour's announcement that £100 million will be provided to stop the boat efforts, including more NCA officers, more intelligence gathering. Nigel Farage, the Tories, saying it won't work. The Daily Mail. Asbestos kills more troops than the Taliban. The national disgrace of how toxic MOD homes and equipment caused 9 times more deaths than the 20-year Afghan campaign. The Times. Universities to lose cash if students claim asylum, so universities will be barred from accepting foreign students if they fail to prevent their courses from being used as a backdoor for migrants claiming asylum in the UK. The Independent. Top judges admit regret over unfair prison sentences. This is the Independent's campaign for IPP sentences, indefinite jail terms. Senior judges who imposed unfair jail terms have revealed regrets for their part in the injustice. The Mirror. You are all heroes. Blood donor crisis is over. Mirror readers helped end the Amber Alert blood supply crisis by signing up in droves as donors. I really must do that. I don't know if the panel will ask you in a second. I've never donated blood and I really must. The Guardian. Millions in line for payouts over car finance mis-selling scandal. The FCA proposes redress plan, but victims may get less than £950 each. And Channel 4. A film has sparked a move to ban barely legal porn. I think we can probably all back that. It involves Bonnie Blue as well. Right, welcome back to my panel. Bill Rammell, former Labour Minister, Chloe Dobbs, political commentator, and we're also joined, we have the privilege of the company of former headliner GB News star Paul Cox. Welcome along, Paul.
Hello, Ben.
How are you feeling?
Feeling
good?
I'm sorry that I was giggling during your...
What were you giggling at?
When you said the old lady had rat droppings in her drawers. That was it. Sorry, it was very childish of me. I'm sorry, Ben.
No, it's fine. It's a very serious story, but the way the Metro wrote that headline and the sub-headline was, yeah, I mean, it gave me a tickle as well. What should we talk about? I want to look at the Daily Mail front page, actually. There's a long theme in this country that we treat not just our veterans with, I'd argue, disrespect, but even current serving members of the armed forces. So the front page of the Daily Mail, you see it now. Asbestos kills more troops than the Taliban. This is a Mail investigation. The national disgrace of how toxic MOD homes and equipment cause 9 times more deaths to our forces than the 20-year Afghan campaign. 9 times more deaths. Bill, you were the former Armed Forces Minister, is that right?
Yeah. And historically, there has been a serious concern about military accommodation. The last Labour government did a lot to rectify it. To give it its due, the last Conservative government did, and this government has just allocated £1.5 billion more for military accommodation. My understanding of this story is it's about historic cases and the way that individual troops have been affected by their accommodation, and it's going through a process of litigation. All I would say to ministers is give some direction to come to reasonable settlements.
Yeah, Paul, the stats here in this Mail piece, they're pretty insane, I'd argue. Over the past 9 years, the MOD, well, figures from the MOD show there have been 803 payouts for asbestos illnesses, totalling £112.5 million.
Do you know what's devastating about this is my granddad, he was born in 1930, he's passed away. He died in 2012, so he was 82 when he passed away. He died of asbestosis, having worked in the Portsmouth, I'm from Portsmouth, he worked in Portsmouth Dockyard a lot of his career. And he was actually compensated by both the UK and US navies. To the tune, I think, in the 80s of about £13,000 or £14,000, which not to be sniffed at, but not a tremendous amount of money. The reason I point this out is it's been going on forever. At that point, however, they didn't know the dangers of asbestos. It was a very useful tool, and it was used for many things. Now they absolutely do know, and they've known for many years. And you can't enter a building site, a brand new building site, or do anything with a building site if it's got asbestos there. So it surprises me that we haven't got on top of this.
Chloe, do you think this country, the authorities, the government, do you think I mean, they'd say, of course, they respect the armed forces, but do you think they really respect the armed forces?
No, I mean, not at all. I mean, this story, for me, it's like the cherry on top. We've had all this talk coming for long enough now about how we've got veterans on the streets whilst we are putting migrants up in hotels, all their meals paid for, roof over their head, and they're back at the queue. And for me, I personally think that if you're going to do a job where you are literally willing to die for your country, I mean, I think that's an incredible thing. But I don't understand how you would want to join the armed forces these days when you think this country's gone down the plan, so it's not a great country to save anymore, to put my life on the line for. I'm going to die from asbestos, and I may well end up on the street whilst a migrant is in a hotel. I mean, what incentive is there to
I don't have the statistics here, but I would be willing to bet a pretty penny that this at officer level is not the same problem as it is below. I think, as with society, in particular with the hierarchy of somewhere like our armed forces, that the hoi polloi, the lower-ranked members of that military society will be treated more poorly than the officers.
And I think that's absolutely right. And look, you know, ministers, politicians are ultimately accountable. But what I learned from my time as Minister of State from the Armed Forces is the guys on the front line are fantastic. The senior military, in terms of being effective managers, are most certainly not. And there needs to be reform.
OK, should we look at the front page of the Daily Telegraph tomorrow? Interesting story, Tory civil war. Another one? This time, Badenoch, apparently, according to Liz Truss, is not telling the truth about the Conservatives' failures. So this is it's turning into a little bit of a scrap between Kemi and Liz Truss. Kemi Badenoch wrote in the Telegraph yesterday that Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves were not learning the lessons of Liz Truss and were making even bigger mistakes than Liz Truss. Basically, Kemi threw Liz under the bus, her Tory colleague. Liz Truss has hit back today, saying that Kemi is not telling the truth about the Conservatives' failures, and she doesn't get it, Paul.
No, I mean, and God bless her, Liz Truss has become a bit of a pseudonym for failure, and by Badenoch herself joining in on this, it's very easy for the Labour Party. Of course, it is. You know, 49 days in power, a very, very ambitious economical plan that we know drove the country economically into the ground for a whole number of reasons, some unfair, I would say. However, for Kemi to be using that as well, I just think it's poor taste. I genuinely do. Liz Truss should not be the target. if we are at the point where someone like Kemi Badenoch is focusing on Liz Truss and making her the target of the problem, then we have moved no further forward, and Liz Truss is right.
Yeah, I think Liz Truss was the greatest Prime Minister we weren't allowed to have. I know you're going to scoff at that, probably lots of people watching this. I think she was utterly stitched up, not least by her own party. And to be honest, I don't know why Liz is still a member of the Conservative Party. They threw her under the bus. They're still doing it now. Bill, your thoughts? I mean, you're probably taking glee at this Tory civil war.
Well, I mean, every time Liz Truss rears her head, it's grist to the mill, because it was an atrocious period of government. And Ben, I do disagree with you. In terms of people skills, in terms of communication skills, in terms of attention to detail, she failed on all counts. And I think she was a disaster. But there is an element of truth in what she says, because Badenoch and the Tories collectively have not faced up to their record in office and sufficiently recognised what went wrong and apologised for it. So I think in that respect she's telling the truth.
I think there is, I agree partly in that there is a bit of an element of truth to this, in that every time Kemi Badenoch is asked about the failures of the Conservative government, she parrots the same line saying, oh, well, we're under new leadership now, and fails to address it. But I am a bit frustrated to see Truss going at Badenoch, because, I mean, have the Tories learnt nothing? We're all fed up of them just infighting all the time. I feel like that's partly why they got nothing done whilst they were in power, because they were just arguing with each other all the time.
Yeah. OK, stick with us on Ben Leo tonight. Late edition, I'll be joined by the former Sunday Express editor and Sunman David Wooding for an in-depth look at tomorrow's papers, including this one on the front page of The Telegraph. Our friends, Palestine Action, they're plotting to swamp police with one of the biggest protests, I think, the capital has ever seen. It's crazy. The detail in here. I mean, Palestine Action, by the way, as a reminder, they are a prescribed terrorist group. Supporters of the group plan a protest so big that the justice system will be overwhelmed. David Wooding is here after the break.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is the small boat crossing that everyone can cheer on, going from Fulham all the way back to HMS President in the city of London. It's going very well. I've walked 10 miles this morning with some armed forces veterans, their families, campaigners. GB News is raising money for SAFA and other armed forces charities as part of that Armed Forces Day celebration. Amazing viewers and listeners have raised £2,000 already. And after that gruelling 10-miler, which I have to say was done at quite a gentle pace, are now being treated to this luxurious return back to the starting point on board an HMS, a Royal Navy vessel. This is President 01. This is a training vessel that they use for reservists and also Royal Navy sailors as they make use of the Thames. We've had some great sights already. As we've been going back, we've seen plenty of people taking part in that SAFA 13 Bridges march, waving down on us. I think they were probably slightly jealous that they're still working away and we're enjoying the hospitality of the Royal Navy. But over 1,200 people taking part today, Dawn. Over 150 of them military reservists like myself and Will Mayrick, the producer for today's programme, doing excellent work. He's an RAF officer, in fact, I have to call him sir, which can get very embarrassing. But we're doing great work today, I think, really showcasing the armed forces. It's been amazing to speak to so many veterans, their families, and also many serving personnel on this march today as well. And we're just coming under, there's Vauxhall Bridge there, we've got MI6 to the right, very exciting. Always a beautiful sight, that iconic building. And there's going to be a lot of people still on the march as we go past, we accept. We just had some waves from the bridge earlier.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Yes, we did it.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. We couldn't have done it without you.
Absolutely not. It is down to each and every single one of you who chooses to watch us, to listen to us, and to be a part of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
This is just the beginning. Britain's #1 news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. I'm joined now by the former Sunday Express editor and Sun man, David Wooding. David, good evening. Nice to see you. Shall we start with the Daily Telegraph? Palestine Action, David. They're plotting a rather big protest. They're going to swamp the police. Supporters of the terror group, they are prescribed, of course, are planning a protest so big that the justice system will be overwhelmed. A little bit concerning?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a group that was prescribed by a Labour government, and yet a bunch of lefties are going to take to the streets in support of this prescribed organisation. An organisation which, let's not forget, broke into an RAF base and painted pro-Palestinian colours on aircraft. And another kit. So the idea, I guess, of this is to overwhelm the police to such an extent that Keir Starmer will do another screeching handbrake U-turn and then unprescribe them. Now, he'd be crazy to do that, of course, but this is just going to put absolutely more pressure on police at a time when they've got demos from the migrant groups and counter demos from pro-migrant groups, and now they're going to be faced with an overwhelming and there's no other reason for doing this, Ben, other than to try and get the law changed. What they're trying to do, by the looks of it, is to say, right, we're all going to shout up the Palestine Action Group, therefore breaking the law and being arrested, overcrowding the police stations and the prisons, and saying, well, you deal with this. We're all going to. It's a mass show of civil disobedience.
Yeah, I was at it was after they'd been prescribed at a protest in Parliament Square, where, I mean, there were mostly sort of middle-aged, middle-class grandmothers and grandfathers, but they all sat down and held signs saying, I support Palestine Action. They were nicked and put into the meat wagon. But yeah, as you said, if there's just thousands of people doing that, how would the police deal with it? David, I know you said that it would be mad for Sir Keir Starmer to U-turn on this, but, I mean, what are the chances?
Well, you can't rule it out, because he does, when coming under a lot of pressure from either his own party or from external forces, do a U-turn. He's got form for it now, so you can hardly blame people for putting pressure on him to try and change his mind. We see this all the time, so he has set a bit of a trend going here. I just think he should just stand firm and to hell with it. The problem is, it's in the summer, when we've got a situation where anything could take off at any given time, you've got this added to the whole mix. So it makes for a very difficult August ahead.
Yeah, just on the Bryce Norton situation, there have been arrests, so at the moment, of course, it is all alleged, so on and so on, and we'll let the course of justice take its course. What else has caught your eye, David? Actually, before... yeah, go on.
Well, I was going to say, just on the same page there's this story you were discussing earlier about the teacher who was sacked for saying something in support of Lucy Connolly in a social media post. Now, it's strange how a teacher gets sacked for saying something which is not a left-wing view. I wonder how many teachers will be in this Palestine Action Group march, or how many people have indeed been out and marching for Palestine and expressing views on that. I mean, I remember being at school, and a lot of my teachers, I would have thought, would have been members of the Communist Party. It was a long time ago, I haven't said that.
Wait, did you used to be a commie, David, back in the day?
We all start off as commies, don't we? We end up as right-wing as you. Well, not quite that right-wing.
That's me. What are you saying? I'm a centrist. What are you saying?
You're a quick developer, Ben. Very quick developer.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's bizarre. The complaint, David. I'm not sure if you've read in detail the story. I'm sure you have because you're clued up. But the complaint came from a Muslim colleague who said that the very fact this teacher had said Lucy Connolly's sentence was 2-tier, somehow that was Islamophobic. Don't know how they got through the mental gymnastics to work that out, but.
I don't get that, but I do understand. I'm not surprised it's a member of the National Education Union, which is, you know, the NEU, or it used to be the NUT. And I was an education correspondent for several years. That was quite a militant, hardline, left-wing union. I had young children at school at the time when I was an education correspondent, and I'd go to the Easter conferences and I'd be horrified at the thought that these people were teaching my kids. But the truth is that it was the hardliners who were dominating the conference, in fairness. A lot of teachers do a good job and are very reasonable and know where the boundaries lie. But in that union, it was always pretty hard line. And I therefore wonder, I'm not surprised that somebody within the NEU has complained about him, because he's expressing a view which isn't in line with the militant stance.
Yeah, free speech and democracy for everybody, as long as you agree with me. Let's look at the Times, David. Backlash after, I mean, this is insane. Hamas have praised Keir Starmer's move to threaten to recognise Palestine as a state. Hamas praised Keir Starmer's move as, quote, one of the fruits of October the 7th. Dear, oh dear.
That phrase in itself, it's quite damning. Keir Starmer has had quite a lot of criticism for paving the way to recognise Palestine as a state. Now, I accept that there has to be a two-tier solution, but the timing of this all seems so odd, because on one hand, you've got Jeremy Corbyn launching this new Your Party, which is going to attract voters and possibly some MPs who are on that left fringe of the party. So he's clearly trying to diffuse that. And on the other hand, he's got a lot of people who are marching on the streets, like the Palestine Action Group, I guess, and other people who are really in favour of of recognising Palestine. So he's trying to square the circle there, but of course he's not said in any shape or form that the deal would involve releasing the remaining hostages. So of course Palestine. The Palestinians, or Hamas, will probably seize upon that and not release the hostages until they're recognised. So them saying that is another embarrassment for Keir Starmer on this issue, I think.
Yeah, Ghazi Hamad, who's a senior member of Hamas, said this weekend that the flurry of major nations planning to recognise Palestine as a state vindicated the terror group's attack on Israel on October the 7th. Bill Rammel's here, David. He's got a question for you.
Yeah, look, Dave knows I like him and respect him, but I think, Dave, this is much wider than the Labour Party. I think the vast majority of people in this country supported Israel and its right to self-defence after October the 7th, but have concluded that the Israeli actions now are disproportionate and are seeing every day pictures of kids, women, children starving. And this is an attempt, and we're not alone, to actually put some pressure on Israel to change. And, you know, it's France, Britain, Canada who said that, you know, in time they will recognise the Palestinian state. This is more than just the Labour Party. This is about a dire humanitarian catastrophe where we need a resolution.
Well, that's totally fair comment, that, Bill, and I agree with you to some extent. I think a lot of us see those pictures every day on the television screens, and sometimes on the front page of newspapers as well, even though it's been going on for a couple of years. And yes, it is a really dire situation, and whether, you know, some people are expressing the view that it's wildly disproportionate response now. But we do sympathise with both sides here, and it's a very difficult issue for Keir Starmer. And it's just the fact that at the time he made this decision, he's been so in favour of they must free the hostages, standing behind Israel, and suddenly at a sort of flick, he's gone the other way. So
yeah,
one wonders how much of it is done for political reasons as well as humanitarian reasons.
Yeah. David, thank you so much. Really appreciate your company. Hopefully see you again next week. David Wooding, former editor of the Sunday Express and colleague at the Sun newspaper. Right, coming up on Ben Leo Tonight.
Call her there! I can't! I've got too much to do. Listen, don't mention the war. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it all right.
A new study finds trigger warnings may not help students as much as we believed. I mean, did anyone believe they help students at all?
No, of course they didn't.
No? Are we surprised? This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello. The heat is building across Portugal and Spain over the next few days. It's not as hot as it has been across the Eastern Med, and here it's a bit more changeable. We have got some fairly intense thundery downpours across parts of Italy and the Balkans, northern parts of Greece too. Elsewhere across Italy, Spain and Portugal, plenty of hot sunshine though, just a bit more in the way of cloud affecting Madeira and the Canary Islands, but generally dry and fine here. Lots of hot sunshine on the way through the next few days too, and temperatures in the 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Floris is on the way with an amber weather warning in force across parts of Scotland, where we're going to see unseasonably strong winds and some heavy rain. It's currently situated out towards the west of the UK, but it undergoes rapid deepening as it approaches the UK through Sunday night and into the early hours of Monday. Sunday evening generally starts dry with clear spells for most of us. However, all eyes up towards the northwest. We see outbreaks of heavy rain arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and then later into western parts of Scotland into the early hours of Monday morning. A little dry further south, but still rather cloudy and quite a mild night and perhaps quite a humid start to Monday for many of us into the start of the new week. A very damp and windy start across parts of Scotland, though. Those winds continue to intensify through the early hours of the morning. Gusts at the coast of 70 miles an hour, 50 to 60 miles an hour on land, and even across western parts of Scotland. At first, we could see those gusts even a little higher, around 80, perhaps even 90 miles an hour. Still windy across the south, but a bit of a brighter start here, and those winds not quite as strong as further north. But that band of rain continues to sweep its way south and eastwards as we go through Monday daytime. As I mentioned, it's across the north that we see those winds continue to intensify through Monday afternoon. Western coast of Scotland and then later across the north coast of Aberdeenshire is where we're likely to see the peak of winds, 80 to 85, potentially 90 miles an hour. And with those strong winds, despite temperatures being pretty similar to Sunday, it'll be feeling much cooler and much fresher and probably quite unpleasant further north. Tuesday, those winds are a notch down compared to Monday, but it will still be a breezy start to the day, particularly across the north and the west. Plenty of blustery showers feeding in on that northwesterly wind, but generally staying drier further south with plenty of sunshine. And it looks a little drier for all of us on Wednesday. And then perhaps turning a little bit warmer as we go through the second half of the week.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. Now, a new study finds trigger warnings may not help students as much as believed. Researchers tested 738 US students and found that trigger warnings, which, let's just to clarify, they are warnings before films, movies, I think there's some in books as well, that some material may be offensive. They found that trigger warnings didn't improve emotional safety or engagement with tough topics such as PTSD. Let's bring you a clip from one of the country's greatest ever comedians that could well come with a trigger warning.
Will you please call your wife immediately?
Simon! Simon! She's in the hospital, you silly girl!
Yes, call her there!
I can't! I've got too much to do. Listen, don't mention the war. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it all right. So, it's all forgotten now, and let's hear no more about it. So that's 2 egg mayonnaise, a prawn Goebbels, a Hermann Goring, and 4 colded salads.
Oh, they don't make it like that anymore, do they? Let's cross live to the United States and speak to Sam Pratt, who wrote the report into trigger warning. Sam, good afternoon, I guess, where you are. So what we can conclude from this, Sam, is that trigger warnings make no difference whatsoever. Is that right?
That's right. So, as you said, we ran this experiment where we had students watch videos of instructors lecturing, and they either gave a trigger warning or they didn't. And what we found was that overall, trigger warnings didn't have a positive effect on students' perceptions of the classroom environment or their perceptions of the instructor.
My colleague Paul Cox is here. He's a great comedian here in the UK, star of GBNews, and some would argue lots of his material needs trigger warnings on, but he wants to speak to you, Sam.
Yeah, it probably does, to be honest, Sam. Nice to meet you. My question is, why do we always have this obsession with trying to protect trying to protect young adults, essentially? These people don't need protecting. What they need is exposure to things that they don't like in order to strengthen their characters. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think it's a tough question. I think there's definitely this tension, especially in classrooms, between, what level of content do we expose people to with a warning or without a warning. And we've seen this debate for a while now about sort of emotional safety and do students need to be protected from emotionally distressing content. I think what we're finding across a few studies now with trigger warnings is that if our goal with trigger warnings is to help people better cope with, anxiety-inducing content, they don't seem to accomplish that goal.
So what are we telling them, Sam? Just man up?
Well, I maybe wouldn't word it like that.
Why not?
I do think...
You're not sensitive, are you, Sam?
Well, I think there's a really tough trade-off in the classroom between sort of being exposed to ideas that we disagree with and that maybe come with some emotional discomfort. And I think a lot of people would argue that, one mission of the classroom is to sort of grow intellectually through that discomfort. And so I think that's where we're seeing this debate arise with, whether we shouldn't give trigger warnings.
Yeah. Chloe Dobbs here, my colleague, great political commentator here in the UK. Chloe, what's your question for Sam?
I just want to ask, could you give us some examples of what the typical trigger warnings were that you were testing in this study? Was it more mild things like, be careful, we're going to talk about colonialism in this lecture? Or was it quite serious stuff like, we're going to discuss topics like rape and sexual assault, for example?
Yeah, definitely. So we used one lecture in this study, and it was a 3 or 4 minute lecture about trauma and specifically sexual violence. So the trigger warning in our study was specifically warning about that. We also looked at whether participants in the study had experienced past trauma and whether the trigger warning reminded them specifically of their most salient trauma. And so when we broke it down by participants who had a history of trauma, we found that even for that subgroup, trigger warnings didn't seem to signal anything positive about the classroom or the instructor.
And presumably you would still support a trigger warning saying, for example, be careful, there are flashing lights in this broadcast for epileptics.
Yeah, I think that's where there's a big difference between, say, a content warning, which is saying, here's what you're about to encounter, versus a trigger warning, which historically is telling someone what they're about to encounter and then, crucially, how they're likely to react to that. And so there's some studies showing that when you do that, there can be a sort of nocebo effect where anxiety levels actually increase because you're telling them, this content is likely to trigger, past memories of trauma or, some type of anxiety.
OK, Sam, a fascinating study. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your company and your work on the study and sharing the findings with us. Sam Pratt, of course, who's the author of that report. The trigger warnings live from the United States. I don't know, Paul. I just kind of think, you know, I don't want to be like, oh, back in my day, but I never had trigger warnings.
Well,
I'm all right, aren't I?
I think part of growing up, particularly from a young adult to an adult, it's very important that you learn that life isn't fair. Or life, and when I say it is unfair, it's not as you expect it to be. And if you are offended by a TV programme that was made 20 or 30 years previous, the chances of you being able to manage successfully with the rest of life are very, very low. I mean, try just speaking to an NHS receptionist. They're much more brutal. They've got much less time for you than any of these other sitcoms of the 70s did. So I just think we are doing a disservice to the young adults.
OK, can we look at the front page of the Sun newspaper? There's a really sad story breaking from last night. An Oasis fan fell from height at Wembley Stadium watching Noel and Liam's big reunion tour. They died, sadly. The man in his 40s is believed to have been in Wembley Stadium's upper tier when he fell towards the end of the gig. The boys, Noel and Liam Gallagher, said they were shocked and saddened at the death. Chloe, any thoughts?
I mean, it's just so sad, and I think, as you said earlier, I mean, this would have been a night for so much celebration and so much joy, and then to have it end like that, even if you're just a bystander who doesn't know the man, it's just... It would have been absolutely horrifying, would have made everybody's stomach drop who was there, who saw it happen. It just really, really sad.
I think Paul Richards was there last night as well, so hopefully he's OK. Did you, Bill, any... I mean, is there anything to be said here about stadiums and... You know, I don't want to have a Hillsborough reaction when you start banning fans from standing up, but is there any concern about...
It is shocking and it's appalling, and your heart goes out to, you know, the family and the friends, but... I guess an observation is it's surprising things like this don't happen more often when you have literally tens of thousands of people in stadiums, you know, often at very high levels, and, you know, often alcohol will have been taken. It's surprising it doesn't happen more often.
Yeah, the Sun is reporting that fans said they feared losing their footing in the upper tier of the stadium because of the amount of beer thrown and drinks spilt. One described it as being like an ice rink. Another fan said on social media, walking down the steps to our seats, I thought it wouldn't take much to slip and fall. And another gig goer who saw the man fall said, I was in block 511 and the guy next to me slipped and fell. It was messed up. Noel and Liam Gallagher have sent their condolences. They said they're shocked and saddened to hear of the tragic death of the fan at the show last night. And, yeah, the guy's not been named. It's a man in his 40s. Yeah, you know, our thoughts are with that man, his family, even the fans who were there who didn't know him and saw him before. It must be an awful end to what should have been a magical evening. Right, coming up, President Trump has deployed nuclear subs near Russia and accelerated tough new sanctions. He's, you know, sparked, I guess, a war of words with Vladimir Putin. Is this the right way to stop the war in Ukraine? This is Ben Leo Tonight, late edition.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News. You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition now. Tensions between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have hit breaking point. After months of failed diplomacy, President Trump has deployed nuclear subs near Russia and accelerated tough new sanctions against Putin. The president, once proud of his close ties with Mr. Vladimir Putin, now calls him crazy and accuses his Russian counterpart of fueling war in Ukraine. Civilian deaths and stalled peace talks have pushed Trump to act, and the President Trump says Russia has days left to come to the table and sort the situation out in Ukraine or face devastating consequences. I'm joined now by American political strategist and spokesman for Republicans overseas, Errol Mokok. Errol, good evening, good morning. Where are you, Errol? Are you in the UK or in America?
I'm in America at the moment. I'll be back next week.
All right, well, good afternoon to you or good morning, whatever the time is there. This is a clear change of tone from President Trump against Putin. I guess as an outsider, you could kind of understand what President Trump was trying to do in the early stages and be diplomatic with Putin. Now it seems like he's just running out of patience.
Look, I think a lot of it comes down to, and this isn't me trying to put the blame on the prior administration, this is our problem, we're dealing with it, but there was no faith on our side that any due diligence on the peace side had gone forth, whether that had been Joe Biden or that had been Lloyd Austin, the former Secretary of Defense. So, I mean, it sounds a little bit backtracky, but it's not really. We had to try to give peace a chance, and Donald Trump extended that olive branch. He made concessions. He admitted where, hey, Zelensky perhaps isn't a good actor in this situation. He did a lot of overtures, and Vladimir Putin took all of that, gave him kind words, and then delivered nothing. Only more death, more destruction, more civilian casualties. And Donald Trump is a humanitarian above all else. I mean, people sometimes laugh when I say that, but he really does seem to have compassion for people. And so now we've reached a point of, I think, a change of focus. And I think that change of focus is coming because Russia has, MIRV, which is multiple entry warhead hypersonic missiles that have gone online just this August. I mean, that is a Mach 10 missile that can hit anything. So right now, the U.S. moving its submarines, that's a show to Russia that, yes, you might have this unstoppable capability, but Moscow is also under that direct threat. And that is not the direction that we wanted to go. And I think Donald Trump did his best for that initial piece, and he was rebuffed at every good overture. So now we're in the escalatory phase, and I think they have 10 to 12 days to come to the table, or those sanctions go in full force on countries that have been doing trade with Russia behind the scenes.
Which countries have been doing trade with Russia behind the scenes on the snide?
Well, the ones that matter are the ones with the big dollars, and that's going to be mainly China and mainly India, and that's a really big bugaboo for Prime Minister Modi, who's made these big overtures with President Trump, who's got this sort of tangential trade deal, who's trying to onboard Apple and other big tech firms in there. All of a sudden, he's going to be caught in a situation where perhaps the uplift that the Indian economy gets from buying Russian oil, marking it up 25% and selling it to Europe, isn't worth what it's going to lose in trade deals with the United States of America. So I think that's one way to look at it. But you also are going to have a lot of other economies down the line that are doing business also through the shipping companies of Russia or India, and they're going to be impacted. So it's a really big trigger to pull. It's not a small thing that's going to just impact the bigger guys, and that's where the pressure has to ramp up, because doctrinally things have to change from, hey, we're looking for peace, we'll cut you some slack. We're not in that phase anymore. Putin's killing innocent people. I think 40,000 people on both sides died last month. That's not what President Trump promised his voters, and he owes that to the human race, I think, to do his best as a leader of the free world to bring an end to it.
That's crazy. I mean, sad, tragic. I mean, and by the way, I've watched so much GoPro footage from the trenches in the Donbass. They're just young kids. They're 18, 19, 20-year-olds. A lot of them probably related by some way, cousins, just slaughtering each other. The GoPro footage is insane. President Trump has said that in reaction to moving those nuclear subs in response to Russia, it was because of the former president, Dmitry Medvedev, who's mouthing off about, suggesting that nuclear warheads would be in play.
Yeah, and I think that Medvedev perhaps overestimated how unimportant he was. President Trump actually, I think, has done this in a way to silence it. Not only is he an actual player, even though he's not technically in the seat of power, he's somebody this isn't new for him. If you've followed his Twitter history or social media, he's been a very bellicose war hawk, open to nuclear confrontation, almost to the point of welcoming it, very bring it on mentality. And he was the president of Russia for quite a period of time, maybe under the tutelage of Vladimir Putin, while they traded that back and forth and that sort of sham that went on there. So I think Donald Trump also does that to, really hit and neutralize somebody, because now Putin's going to have to tell him, hey, if you keep this up, it's going to impact us further. I think that might have been a shot that Trump has had enough of what he's had to say. But I think ultimately it comes down to Vladimir Putin. Is he going to rein in his subordinates? And he can, if he seeks a peace deal from this point right now, he'll get a lot of what he wants. If he continues, I mean, analysts don't expect the Russian wartime economy to be able to continue past 2026, maybe 2027, at the clip it's going. It can do well, but it's not going to be good for the people. And I think that they should take heed right now that they have 10 to 12 days before this can really get bad for their economy.
Yeah, and Errol, just finally, you mentioned Zelensky at the start of your chat, and it just reminded me, I'd forgotten the Hollywood-style iconic scenes in the White House with Vance, President Trump, Zelensky in there, the reporters, was it a guy from Fox? I mean, we've come a long way since then. It seems that as you suggested, the sort of attempt by Trump to go after Zelensky, badmouth Ukraine and call them out for their corruption and so on, and their ungratefulness hasn't really worked.
Yeah, it didn't work in the fashion that it did. Although on some respects, what it did is it got Europe to sort of step up. And as we see the new support for Ukraine going through NATO, and we also see immediately when the Europeans had their money on the line, all of a sudden they cut aid and said, wait a second, let's look at the corruption. So when it wasn't American money, all of a sudden the corruption got looked into. So perhaps that's what's going to make it a more leaner fighting force and a multinational fighting force. I think something that's required for Europe to actually stand up to Russia, because ultimately this is a European problem. And the Americans should be there in support and helping, but Europe needs to take a frontline role, and using NATO, I think, was a great idea.
Errol, thank you so much. Really appreciate your company, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. Thank you, Errol Moorcock, strategist and spokesman for Republicans overseas. Should we take a quick last look at the Daily Mirror very quickly? It's about blood. I know it's not a very sexy story, but I think it's quite important. Panel, have you guys ever given blood, Bill?
No, my wife always has, and she's urged me to do it. And these stories surfacing about the lack of blood, I think I ought to.
Yeah, there's a big appeal for blood because there is meant to be a crisis, Chloe. You give blood, don't you?
I haven't done it,
No.
but I need to. That's a good reminder that I should. I'm a little bit squeamish.
I haven't given blood either.
But I should do it.
I haven't given blood, but unlike the others, I definitely won't.
Why not?
No, I'm joking. No, I think I would. I don't know why I haven't done. Maybe it's a squeamish thing.
Yeah.
No, I don't mind needles. I don't mind blood. I just haven't given any of my own.
If any viewers do want to give blood, do go to blood.co.uk. There's some details on there about how to get your arm out and do your part. I admittedly haven't ever given blood either. I know I need to. It's just one of those things, but it's stories like this on the front page of the Mirror, campaign for more blood, which should hopefully encourage us all to play our part. Thank you for your company this weekend. Really appreciate it. Thank you to Bill, Chloe, to Paul. I'll be back again. I'm not here next week, actually. I'm on holiday, but I'll be thinking of you. I'll be back the week afterwards. Thank you so much. Have a good week next week, and sweet dreams tonight. Good night.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Floris is on the way with an amber weather warning in force across parts of Scotland, where we're going to see unseasonably strong winds and some heavy rain. It's currently situated out towards the west of the UK, but it undergoes rapid deepening as it approaches the UK through Sunday night and into the early hours of Monday. Sunday evening generally starts dry with clear spells for most of us. However, all eyes up towards the northwest, where we see outbreaks of heavy rain arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and then later into western parts of Scotland into the early hours of Monday morning. A little dry further south, but still rather cloudy and quite a mild night and perhaps quite a humid start to Monday for many of us into the start of the new week. A very damp and windy start across parts of Scotland, though. Those winds continue to intensify through the early hours of the morning. Gusts at the coast of 70 miles an hour, 50 to 60 miles an hour on land, and even across western parts of Scotland. At first, we could see those gusts even a little higher, around 80, perhaps even 90 miles an hour. Still windy across the south, but a bit of a brighter start here, and those winds not quite as strong as further north. That band of rain continues to sweep its way south and eastwards as we go through Monday daytime. As I mentioned, it's across the north that we see those winds continue to intensify through Monday afternoon. Western coast of Scotland and then later across the north coast of Aberdeenshire is where we're likely to see the peak of winds, 80 to 85, potentially 90 miles an hour. And with those strong winds, despite temperatures being pretty similar to Sunday, it'll be feeling much cooler and much fresher and probably quite unpleasant further north. Tuesday, those winds are a notch down compared to Monday, but it will still be a breezy start to the day, particularly across the north and the west. Plenty of blustery showers feeding in on that northwesterly wind, but generally staying drier further south with plenty of sunshine. And it looks a little drier for all of us on Wednesday. And then perhaps turning a little bit warmer as we go through the second half of the week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Let us take on some of your financial stresses and pay your mortgage or rent for the next 12 months. We want to give you a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an unbelievable £20,000. We'll also boost that by a further £5,000, so you really could have some fun in the coming year. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. This is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight.
My jeans are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has for Keens.
Is the new American Eagle advert starring Sydney Sweeney Nazi propaganda, or is it just a brand using a beautiful woman to sell jeans? We're going to replay that ad quite a few times. Plus,
1984 called and he wants its Ministry of Truth back. The UK has created an elite police unit.
yes, Labour have deployed a spy unit to silence migrant hotel critics, and
No, this is my Quran. This is my Quran.
No, this is not your Quran.
This is my Quran. Sir, can somebody help us? This is my Quran.
a Christian pastor who was threatened with arrest after being assaulted for peacefully protesting will join us, and
I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone.
we're going to be joined by one of the architects of the online safety bill to discuss the concerning ramifications at home and across the pond. And we've got comedians answering some crazy culture developments from our live studio audience. But first, the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you. We start with some breaking news. A man has died after falling during an Oasis concert at Wembley Stadium on Saturday. Police say a man in his 40s was involved in an incident at around 10 o'clock last night and was pronounced dead at the scene. They're asking for anyone who may have witnessed the incident or caught it on mobile phone footage to call 101. Crowds building there ahead of tonight's performance. It's one of 7 sold-out shows at the National Stadium. Oasis have said in a statement they're shocked and saddened to hear of the death and would like to extend sincere condolences to the family and friends of the person involved. Plans to introduce a new fast-track scheme to tackle the asylum claims backlog have been unveiled with the aim of making decisions within weeks. It comes as yet another protest has been taking place outside the Britannia International Hotel in Canary Wharf, which received around 60 migrants on Friday. It's the latest in a series of demonstrations as tensions over asylum hotels have flared in recent weeks. Thousands of drivers who are missold car loans could receive payouts in a £1 billion compensation scheme. The financial regulator says many firms were not complying with the law or disclosure rules when they sold loans to customers. However, victims of the finance mis-selling will get less than £950 per deal. The total cost of the scheme, though, could be up to £18 billion. The government says plans to bring seriously ill or injured children from Gaza to the UK are progressing at pace. The Sunday Times is reporting that up to 300 children could be evacuated here to receive free medical care within the coming weeks. UNICEF estimates more than 50,000 children have been killed or injured in Gaza since October 2023. Meanwhile, an aid group there has accused Israeli forces of targeting its headquarters, killing one of its workers and injuring 3 others. The Palestine Red Crescent Society says the building in the southern city of Han Yunis was clearly marked and known to the military. Israel has denied any knowledge of the attack. Russia says a Ukrainian drone attack is responsible for a huge fire that's been burning at an oil depot near the Black Sea resort of Sochi. Huge pillars of smoke have been seen rising from the facility, causing flights at the local airport to be temporarily halted. Ukraine's military says it also struck a nearby military airfield. Meanwhile, at least 7 people have been injured and dozens of homes destroyed after a Russian missile hit Ukraine's southern city of Mykolaiv. And the BBC's launched an investigation into alleged cocaine use by 2 of its stars on Strictly Come Dancing. The claims were first reported by The Sun on Sunday. It's understood the broadcasters hired an external law firm to investigate the allegations, which a source said were well known on the show. A BBC spokesperson says it has clear protocols and policies in place for dealing with serious complaints. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 8 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie, the show where we take a look at culture, current affairs and politics, where everything's going mad. We try our best to fix it. Coming up on the show tonight, a record number of over 60s have been referred to prevent for extreme right-wing views. Plus, journalist and author Ella Whelan will be joining us to discuss why museums should be focusing on curating and conserving art history rather than catering to the political whims of the cultural elite, as the Tate has blamed Brexit for low attendance. Scotland's biggest book festival has not invited authors of gender-critical books because they deem the issue too divisive. And of course, myself and my fantastic panel will be answering questions from our wonderful studio audience. Let's go first things first into a debate. American Eagle is standing by Euphoria star Sydney Sweeney after woke critics branded her denim and campaign Nazi propaganda. The ad, with the cheeky tagline, "Sydney Sweeney has great genes," sparked backlash for alleged promoting eugenics, actually, thanks to the pun about genes and her blue eyes. Let's take a look.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Critics called it a dog whistle, but many are calling that utter nonsense. American Eagle insists it's about genes, not genetics, and says the campaign celebrates confidence for everyone. So, is it a dog whistle to Nazi propaganda, or just a brand using a beautiful woman to sell jeans? How crazy would that be? Joining me now is TV personality and social commentator Amy Ansell and award-winning advertising copywriter Paul Burke. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Amy, I'm going to come to you first of all, because you've got a piece of paper there. That means you come here meaning business.
Several pieces of paper.
Several pieces of paper. Let's go first of all. Do you genuinely believe there is any element of Nazi propaganda or eugenics actually within this advert?
I think the Nazi propaganda and the racism is implied. And I think that's perceived by so many, and that's why the internet has gone crazy. It doesn't stop. This launched last week, and the internet keeps on going crazy. Everyone's talking about it.
The internet isn't always right.
Well, that's correct, but people are very outspoken about it, especially the left, and we know why. They're upset, they're hurt, they're offended, and ultimately, I actually think American Eagle knew exactly what they were doing. It was controversial for a reason, and I would call this divisive advertising, outrageous,